Hello, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Typically, I make content that focuses on my journey with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but recently my husband and I got married about 3.5 weeks ago, and we had a DIY backyard wedding. It was a lot of work and it was a ton of planning, so I want to help others that are thinking of doing the same. I've learned a lot over the last year of planning this wedding and putting it together, so I'm creating this wedding series to help out you guys that are doing the same. In today's video, we're gonna talk about all of the tiny details that you might not think of that you need when you're putting together a DIY backyard wedding. Some of these things I planned ahead for and bought way ahead of time. Some of them I did not realize that I needed and I bought very last minute. So to help you guys to prevent any kind of minor freakouts, to save you guys some stress when you're planning your wedding, let's talk about all of these tiny little things that you may not even realize that you need when you're putting together a wedding yourself. First things first, before we get into the actual details of items that you are going to probably need, I'm just gonna put this out there. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's a big misconception that having a DIY wedding, that having a backyard wedding, that doing it yourself is going to require less work and less planning. I don't know where that idea came from, and I definitely had kind of that idea when I first started. I mean, I knew it was gonna be a lot of work. I didn't realize how much work and how much planning was going to be required. But if you're going into this thinking that having a backyard wedding is going to be simple and easy and it's not going to take up a lot of your time, you are very much misinformed, and that is 100% not the case. When you're doing this kind of wedding, when you're not having it at a venue, when you don't have a whole team of people that is putting it together for you, there's got to be a couple of things present, I think, in order for it to actually happen. One, you either need to have a lot of help or you need to have plenty of time in order to do all of the planning. You know, it could quite possibly be possible for you to work a full-time job, work a second job, do a million other things, and plan your own wedding in a backyard, but that's very difficult. I was very fortunate that this was the kind of wedding that I wanted and that I had the time to plan it, because I no longer work any sort of 9-to-5 full-time job. Everything I do is kind of freelance. I have a set schedule for certain hours of my day, but I no longer have to be in one set place for 10 hours with an hour-and-a-half commute like I used to. So I had the flexibility to make the time to plan everything that needed to be planned. I think if you're also planning this kind of wedding where it's just very DIY, you're creating everything, I think it's also really helpful to have some sort of like creative bone in your body. You know what I mean? I think it's just really helpful to sort of be a creative person when you're creating all of these different projects yourself. You're using your hands, you're creating this vision, and you're bringing it to life. You have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy being creative. You have to enjoy spending time on little tiny details. That's gonna make the whole process enjoyable. It's gonna make it fun. So if you have the time or you have plenty of help and you're sort of a creative person, then I think that this is the perfect wedding for you. So now that that is out of the way, let's get into all of the tiny details that you might not think of that you need for your backyard wedding. The first thing on the list is you have to think about the weather. So let me tell you a little story. The whole process of planning my wedding, we got married within 11 months of getting engaged. For those, I would say, 10 months, I just prayed and believed and just had the faith that it was not going to rain, that it was going to be the most beautiful day, and I wouldn't need any kind of tent. Everything would be perfect, and I did not have any worries. It was gonna be fine. So I only ordered one gigantic tent for the reception, and I planned for the rest of the backyard to be just opened and people could move freely. And then about a month before the wedding, I started having anxiety about the weather. I guess I just started having more realistic thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what if it rains? So on a whim, I ordered a second tent and I am so happy that I did, because you wanna know something? It ended up raining on our wedding day. Aside from the backyard, we had no access to any kind of indoor shelter. So it might be different for you if you're having it, say, on a farm and maybe there's a barn available, or the house that you're having the wedding at, you have access to the house. We did not. We just had the backyard. So these are some things that you have to think about, and I know that obviously we all want to believe that the weather is going to be perfect on our wedding day, but you cannot predict the weather. The week of the wedding, the weather was so up and down. One day it said it was going to rain. The next day it said that it was going to be blue skies. You just never know. So to save you stress closer to the wedding day, plan for this ahead. I am begging you, do not do what I did and last minute, because you didn't have a backup plan, order a tent. Other little details that might be nice that were kind of helpful for the day of, a lot of it went to waste, but some of it was used. Last minute, I ended up ordering umbrellas and ponchos. I ordered these clear umbrellas off of Amazon, and then I ordered these clear ponchos off of Amazon, and I just had them available just in case. When it downpoured for 10 minutes on our wedding day, my day of coordinator, in my last video, I just couldn't stop raving about her, but she was so amazing, and she grabbed the umbrellas, she grabbed the ponchos, and she was walking all around the backyard handing everything to everyone. Thankfully, it only rained for about 10 minutes, so no one really actually needed anything, but they were there just in case, and some people were using them when they left the tent to go get food, or they were going from tent to tent, or they wanted to go to the bar to get drinks. People had them. So if you're having a backyard wedding and you do not have access to a barn, to another house, any kind of shelter, I would recommend making sure that you have plenty of tents available to fit the number of people that you have, so that people have some sort of roof over their head if it does rain. And I would also just add in little details of maybe getting some clear umbrellas and maybe getting some clear ponchos just in case. The next thing on the list that you're going to have to think about ahead of time is lighting. If you're having your wedding in a backyard, not inside in a venue, there are not going to be any lights. And when the sun goes down, you do not want to have your guests walking around in the dark. So my vision for our sort of rustic woodsy wedding was to have string lights everywhere. I wanted string lights hanging all across the backyard. So for the big sort of monstrosity of a tent that we had for the reception, we actually rented those string lights. And then for the string lights that we hung on the upper and lower balcony, for the string lights that we hung all across the backyard, and for the string lights that we hung in the second tent, we actually purchased these on Amazon. They were really good quality. We hung them up actually a couple of weeks before the wedding, and they were great. And then we also hung up white Christmas lights throughout the bushes in the backyard. And let me tell you, when the sun started to go down and all of the lights were turned on, it looked so beautiful. It just looked like this lit up magical forest, and it was perfect. It was so beautiful. So I recommend hanging as many string lights as possible. When you're hanging lights, you also want to think about how you're going to hang them. We actually just use nails, and that's how we hung the string lights all across the balcony and all along the roof. So you can use nails, you can use hooks, and we just got those at Home Depot. I would also really recommend figuring out where you can hang string lights ahead of time. That's not something that you want to be doing like the day before or, God forbid, the day of. You want to figure this out ahead of time, figure out where you can hang the string lights from, figure out where they're going to look good. You want to make sure that you either have a pole to hang them across the yard that they can attach to, a tree, something. The earlier that you can figure that out, the better, and the less stressed that you will be. Number 3 on the list of little tiny details that you might not realize you need that are absolutely necessary. I have a whole list here of sort of home supplies that you just might not realize are very, very helpful. So the first thing on this list is batteries. All of the candles that we used were fake. And let me tell you, a lot of my time planning was spent towards finding candles that looked as realistic as possible, that were the right color. There's nothing worse, I think, than fake candles that have that really orangey tone to them. But those are details for another video. So anyway, all of the candles that we used were fake. I didn't want real candles around everywhere. One, because I knew that they would be going out really quickly, right? If it was windy or someone walks past it, the candle wouldn't be lit the whole time. We also had kids running around, so I didn't want there to be this sort of fire hazard of a candle knocking over or a kid touching it. I just thought that it was much safer to have fake candles all around. But for fake candles, you're going to need a lot of batteries, so I went to BJ's and we got a bunch of batteries in bulk. And then the rest of the list, we have surge protectors, extension cords, duct tape is always helpful, big trash cans and garbage bags for those trash cans, bug spray, citronella candles, and a fire starter or matches or both. I can't stress enough just how important it is to have extension cords and surge protectors, especially if you're hanging a bunch of string lights and maybe you have outlets all over the place. One, you want to make sure that you have plenty of outlets and you want to figure out where those outlets are and if they work. One of the biggest stressors the 2 days that we were setting up for the wedding was that a lot of outlets weren't working outside. And let me tell you, your girl was stressed, but I just kind of left all of that to my husband to figure out because that was just not something that I wanted to deal with. But if you find that maybe you don't have enough outlets near each other or some of them don't work, extension cords and surge protectors will be your best freaking friend. I don't know why, but I didn't realize how buggy it was going to be. And then especially because it kind of rained a little bit. So the few days before the wedding, when I was getting all of these last minute things from Home Depot, I asked my husband, I was like, do you think we really need bug spray? And he was like, yeah, you should get some bug spray. And I was like, okay, so I got a bunch of different kinds of bug spray. I got all natural ones for like the all natural people. I got the regular kind. I got spray. I got medicine if someone got bit. All of these just little sort of thoughtful things. And we put them together in a basket and we put them right by the fire pit. We had citronella candles laid out all around the yard. And then something that I didn't realize until very last minute was if you're going to have a fire pit, you need to start it somehow. So you need matches or you need a fire starter. So my next little piece of advice is you want to make sure that your guests are comfortable. That was something that was just heavily on my mind throughout this whole planning process. Obviously, this day is about you and your husband, but it's also very much so about your guests, if not more. So all of these little tips and little details that I'm sharing with you are really to make your guests comfortable. So what are some other things that I did to make sure that everybody felt comfortable in my backyard wedding? One, I had bathroom baskets. So we rented bathroom trailers and they were one of the best things I think that we could have done. Like I mentioned in my last video, if you watched it, I originally didn't want to have bathroom trailers. I was like, I don't want these on the property. They're ugly. They can just use the regular bathroom in the house. No, I think your guests will feel much more comfortable if you have bathroom trailers. And to be honest, they are really nice bathrooms. And then to make my guests feel even more comfortable, I just had some personal items in each bathroom just in case they needed them. Hairspray, bobby pins, tampons for the women's bathroom, gum, hair ties, facial cleansing wipes, Clorox wipes, hand lotion, just all of these little things that someone may realize that they need when they go to use the bathroom and they may look in their bag and they don't have it and then, ooh, look, you have a basket there full of everything that you could possibly need. The store that I found everything in was Harmon. I don't know what store near you has travel-sized packages, but whatever store does, get everything travel-sized. You don't want to have to spend the money and have all of these big packages of everything. If everything is really small and travel-sized, it fits perfect in the baskets, and then you don't waste a ton of stuff. The things that I found were actually the most used in the bathrooms were all of the wipes. The hand wipes, I had Lysol wipes, I had Clorox wipes, facial wipes. All of those were the most used, so I think I would recommend having those kinds of things in your baskets for sure. A couple of other things to make my guests feel comfortable was for the fire pit, I had blankets and pillows in a wooden crate. I spent a lot of money on heaters that we ended up not using because it was close to 80 degrees, but I'm happy that at least I had them in case it got chilly. Like I said, we were in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. We're in the mountains. It gets a little bit colder at night. So I wasn't sure how cold it would get, but it did not get cold at all. But better to be safe than sorry. And then another little detail that I was kind of worrying about, like in the later months of planning, was having enough places for all of the guests to sit during cocktail hour when people were sitting by the fire pit. I will say during cocktail hour, most people were standing. People were playing the games. People were standing around the cocktail tables. Some people were sitting, but then later on in the day, I found that that's when people were sort of sitting more after the reception. So luckily, the property that we were on my husband's grandparents' house. They had actually these really cute wooden benches that we used. They had this really beautiful wooden swing, and then we purchased these really big white Adirondack chairs. We purchased the plastic ones because the wooden ones are so freaking expensive. They're like $300 a piece, which was definitely not in the wedding budget. You know what I mean? Not for a chair. So we got white plastic ones from Ace Hardware, and they looked so good. And then luckily they also had some backyard furniture that they already had at the house, a couple more wooden chairs, and this really cute wooden love seat. So we ended up having plenty of seating around the fire pit area. But I would just have this in mind when you're planning. Make sure that there's enough seating that people can relax if they want to. And of course, as much of a day this is for everybody else, remember, this is your day. So yes, you want your guests to be comfortable, but you as the bride and as the groom, you guys want to be comfortable, right? So something that I would very much recommend is sneakers. Of course, not everybody's the same. Some women, they love being in heels. Me, I do not. I'm a Vans kind of girl. I'm a Converse kind of girl. I love my sneakers. I also love being barefoot. I would much rather be barefoot than have shoes on, but I think that's because the jujitsu comes into play and we're always barefoot. But anyway, I knew that after the ceremony, after all of the pictures, I wanted to get the heck out of my heels. So I got a really cute, fresh pair of white Vans that I changed into right away. And my husband, he had sneakers, but he actually ended up barefoot. And it was his backyard. The whole point of this wedding was to be comfortable, so who the heck freaking cares that he had no shoes on, you know? He also lost his shirt later on in the night, so no shoes, no shirt, just pants and suspenders. I also got a really cute custom jean jacket just in case it got cold and also for some cute photos. But I would recommend something cute like that in case it gets cold, in case it gets chilly, if you want to get more comfortable. Have some sort of jacket or sweatshirt that you can get customized for the wedding. You'll be comfy and it's really cute. And then the last set of little details that you might not think of is all of the food and drink supplies. Now, more than likely, you're probably going to be putting together a bar, and whether that is a self-serve bar or if you're going to have a bartender kind of man the fort, you want to make sure that you have the supplies needed for everything to run smoothly. So just little tiny things like beer bottle openers, wine bottle openers. If you're going to have an ice bucket, then you want to have ice tongs. And then of course, we don't have to mention all of the alcoholic beverages, whether it's beer and wine only, which is what we did. If you're including liquor, then you need the chasers, you need water, you need non-alcoholic beverages if people at your wedding don't drink. We had seltzer, we had iced tea, we had lemonade, we had some energy drinks thrown in there. All of these things you want to just keep in mind to make everything run smoothly. And then for the dessert table, you want to make sure that you have some tongs for the desserts. If you're having just a cake, then you don't have to worry about this. But if you're having little, maybe baby-sized portions of different desserts for a dessert bar, people might not want to reach for things with their hands, so having some tongs laid out on the table might be helpful. And then if you're also having coffee on your dessert bar, you need to either buy or rent the coffee canister or the coffee urn. You obviously need to have coffee for it, and then you want to think about all of the things that you need for the coffee. The cups, we used white disposable ones that I bought on Amazon. They came with the lids, the heat protectors, the stirrers. You need creamer, you need different kinds of sugar, all of these things that you need for just a cup of coffee. But they're little details that you might overlook. And again, it just all comes down to making sure that your guests feel comfortable, making sure that they're having a great time, and being able to properly serve them. So let me know if this video was helpful. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel. I really, really appreciate it. And until the next video, I will see you guys next time.